So the big question is this: how do most agents who struggle to get the information that most successful agents hoard to themselves grow and prosper without this information? That's the big question, and this video cast is the answer. Welcome to Real Estate Rockstars. I'm your host, Pat Hyben. Okay, Rockstar Nation, boy, I have a great guest today, actually returning, and we're going to do something very different than I've ever done before. You know, a lot of you guys have been asking about the top 10 podcasts that we had downloaded in 2017, and we created a list. And, you know, I always hate just kind of talking to myself in a monologue, never been a fan of that. So I asked one of our more popular guests, Christine Lee, to come back on the show and kind of dialogue with me about the top 10. And we're going to go through the top 10. And then in the last three, the top three, we're going to dig deep into what made them so popular last year and what gave them the amount of downloads. So, Christine, welcome to Real Estate Rockstars, and thanks for helping out with this.
Yeah, let's have a blast. I'm eager to see what you got in store for the top 10. It's going to be fun.
Hey, why don't you just real quick tell everybody a little bit about yourself and how you're involved in real estate and that sort of thing.
Yeah, well, you know, back in the day, I talk like I'm like 80 years old, but I had a real estate team, did the whole mega agent, build your business up and, you know, rock it out in the market. And as a part of building a team, there was some serious pains in putting systems in place. And I kind of was very particular about it. Happened to be a real estate geek combo. So I ended up creating my own solution called Seize the Market, and our whole team ran on it. And it came to a point where I decided to make the switch over to real estate technology purely. So using all my kind of experience and blunders in team building, I poured that into technology. So now we have millionaire systems available for agents out there who want to grow their business.
That's great. And how many agents do you have now using your software?
About 500 plus or so.
Okay, that's awesome. Mm-hmm. That's good stuff. So we'll talk more about that at the end of this. But now she's going to be my co-host and helping me through this. So why don't you start we'll start at number 10, and then you can just kind of walk me through it. How's that?
All right, and I'm going to have fun here because I bought this off of Amazon. Oh, totally wrong one. Hold on. It was drum roll.
There we go.
All right. Wasn't expecting that, were you? All right. So number 10 is how to get listings in 2017. Spending $0 with Aaron Wittenstein came in at number 10 with a total download of 6,369 downloads. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, so over 6,000 agents listened to that, and you know, that was a good show. I remember Aaron's been on the show a couple of times, and he talked about, you know, his first 2 years in sales. Then he talked about, you know, two main tools. He's a killer when it comes to expireds. I mean, all his business is from the bottom up expireds, and yeah, and using attorneys. He talks a lot about using attorneys. I shouldn't say all his business. He gets a lot of business from expireds and a lot from attorneys.
Yeah, and I don't know if you knew this, but Aaron's actually a client of ours at Seize the Market, and so
perfect.
He's a huge fan, been an amazing supporter. Yeah, and he's like expired king. So that's his thing. I mean, he's got like expired and calling just flowing through his veins.
Love it, love it, love it. Okay, what was number 9?
Number 9 is succeed as a solo agent using social media, systems, and tenacity with Mark Simone. 62 downloads.
Yeah, and the cool thing about this one is, Christine, is that Mark Simone, his father, Vito Simone, was a big agent in Baltimore City, and then he decided to kind of go into the business outside in the suburbs, and he kind of went from being like an agent on the team to a solo agent and built his business that way. So he has a lot of basic hardcore advice on how to go out on your own and how to build a good business and be very, very successful.
Very cool. Very cool. Now, Pat, do you want me calling out the episode numbers on this? Do you think this would help the audience?
Yeah, that'd be a great idea. So what
All right.
was it? Where's Aaron Whitstein's episode number?
Aaron Wittenstein was number 446. So you can go on. I know I was searching the website, and you can literally just put in the search bar the episode number, and then it's really good about popping it right up. I found it very easy to use.
Yep. And you can put the name, you can put anything in there. You can put FISBO's expire, anything you want to search for on that search bar. It's brilliant. Okay, so so that was that, and then the Mark Simone was 445, which is funny because, you know, sometimes what happens is if you do a good one, then the one that follows it, I'm not going to take anything away from Aaron because it was a brilliant show, but the one that follows it sometimes benefits from that because it streams right into it if someone's, you know, continue listening for more than, say, a 45-minute drive or so, or a half-hour drive or so. So that's really good. Okay, so what do we got for number 8?
All right, episode 473, and it's how a single mom created an $80 million real estate business in her first 2 years with Amanda Todd. Dude, that's amazing.
I love Amanda Todd. You know, she's amazing. Again, one of those episodes that's completely organic, right? Not a famous author or coach or anything like that with a big email list, just pure and simple. Put it out there. People shared it on Facebook, shared it on social media. And she's killing it. She's been on the show several times. What episode number is that one?
That is 473. Yeah. And you know, you see single mom and you're like, dude, it's hard enough being a mom, not being single as it is. And to do that and real estate, huge respect.
Yeah. And she's only been in business 2 years. Her first year, she sold 52 houses by herself with no help and 3 kids. I mean, who does that, right?
I don't know. Oh, that's crazy. All right. Crazy awesome. All right. So number 7 is episode 503, Master the Close and Earn More Commissions with Alexis Bolin, Queen of Scripts and Dialogues. And that has 6,854 downloads.
Look at that. 6854. Now Alexis is great. I used to work with Alexis over at Howard Brinton's Star Power system, and she has always been a master closer. I mean, the things that come out of her mouth are so brilliant. Like, if you want to know how to go on a listing appointment and close it down, or work with a buyer and close them down, get them to make a decision, listen to this episode like 7 times, right? I mean, she is so good when it comes to words. Unbelievable.
Some people have that talent.
And a great negotiator too, you know, I mean, just asking the right questions and all of that stuff.
Awesome. So number 6 is episode 526, maintain top of mind awareness for $1 a day using Facebook ads with John Poley. And that had 7,475 downloads.
It's crazy, right? $1 a day. People don't realize that that's where the most bang for their buck is. They're simply, you know, just not listening and just not aware of how good Facebook advertising is. I mean, really, if I was in the business today, I would take every cent spent anywhere and put it into Facebook ads and probably triple my business.
Yeah, I mean, the amount of targeting that you can do, especially, you know, with the SOI, it's pretty awesome with, again, $1 a day. I mean, I think I was talking to somebody and they were like, oh, my budget is 50. And you're like, oh my gosh, 50 bucks. He's talking 30. It's actually less than that. So, all right, number 5 is episode 469, One Solo Agent's Simple Secret to 100K in monthly commission and an 80% profit margin with Ricky Caruth. Is that how you pronounce that?
Yeah.
All right.
And Ricky is a beast. I mean, an absolute beast. You know, he did 13 agents. I mean, 13 sales. Had 13 pending sales at once, you know, and no help. No admin help. I mean, just killing. No wonder he's got 80% profit margin, right? I mean, it's just him.
He's a one-man circus act with 13 transactions.
Yeah, and it just makes sense. I think some people start from day one and they hire 3 people, right? It's the most ridiculous thing ever. I mean, everybody should follow the Ricky model and do it yourself first so you learn it and you keep so much more of the profit. And then after you're at you know, I mean, he's doing 13 at once with no assistant. I mean, do 5 at once with no assistant before you hire an assistant. Don't do one of those people that just goes out there and does one deal and thinks you need an assistant.
I'm like, 13's a new bar there. So, all right. Number 4 is episode 486, living hand to mouth to earning 7 figures as a RE/MAX #1 agent and finding meaning in life, with Patrick Stracuzzi in his inspiring journey.
Yeah, I love Patrick. Been friends with him for years. And you know, I think what really hit home with this, to bring it all the way up to number 4 for the year, right, was just the fact that his stories were so inspirational. You know, here's a guy that gets hit by a Mack truck driving a Pontiac Fiero.
Oh my gosh.
And it gets crushed to the point where his vocal cords are lost. So now he just whispers. And I think the whisper kind of makes people listen, that real intense, you know.
Oh my gosh.
And almost dies, right? Gets his last rites read to him in the hospital. And then it comes back out, right? And at that time, he was a construction worker, and he couldn't work construction anymore, so he comes to become a real estate agent. And now he's selling $1 million homes every day. He's just doing tons of business. Got 4 kids. I think all 3 out of 4 of the kids are in the business with him. And he's just a household name in Stuart, Florida. And again, a very organic episode where people were just, passing this one along, you know. A top agent at RE/MAX. Obviously, a lot of the RE/MAX offices were passing this one along, getting their agents to listen to it. Just very inspirational.
Yeah, and that one had 7,793 downloads. So we're creeping up there at the 8K mark. So he's right under that. So, I mean, I guess he's one of the few people that if someone says, man, I feel like I got hit by a Mack truck, and he can literally say, well, I know what that feels like.
Yeah.
Oh, all right. So number 3 is episode 456. Master of Persuasion Ross Jeffries shares exactly how you will win over sellers and buyers and make more money in real estate. And that was number 3 at 8,064 downloads. Woo.
So, this one was interesting one because he reached out to me. Here's the weird thing, and I want to see what you thought of this, Christine, because, I knew who he was because I went to a seminar one time on writing books, and the guy, Neil Strauss, who actually wrote several books about his time spent with Ross Jeffries in the pickup artist community, where these guys were professional pickup artists that picked up, 1-2 girls a day, for years, and perfected this trade. And he was actually, Will Ferrell played him in Wedding Crashers. Tom Cruise played him in Magnolia. So this is a guy who's had like the best of the best actors portray him and as a pickup artist, right? And essentially a hypnotist, right? And like it or not, it works. And he was teaching us how to hypnotize subtly through neurolinguistic programming buyers and sellers. And for me, it was fascinating. I had seen Neil Strauss speak, and then he had given out his books, and I read the book. And I've been married 25 years, so I wasn't going to run out there and start picking up chicks and try to utilize the information in his book. But it was fascinating how he put it all together and how well it worked. And I know that people have actually heard him on this episode and signed him up for teen training, men and women, because now he's training real estate agents and salespeople how to use it, right? Because the gig is up on it. Like once the book came out, everybody knew, that was a scam. Well, I guess at some point they knew it was a scam, or a lot of the girls who frequent bars knew it was a scam or had heard the lines before. But anyways, and now he's older, and he's out of the game. So anyways, so it's very interesting. And what'd you think of this episode?
What I thought was really powerful is for the agents that don't like being quote unquote salesy, right? Because you hear that all the time. Oh, I don't want to be salesy. It's a way where you can persuade without being all pitchy. Everything was very subtle. That's what I noticed. Very subtle, but also very specific on how you execute it. So it's not something that, it's very purposeful and obviously effective. And so applying this to your listing presentations and, kind of helping the seller get out of their own way in their decision making, just the language that he would use, I think anybody can be comfortable saying it and not feel like a greasy used car salesman.
Yeah, well, that's the key, right? I think that's why people shy away from scripts. I mean, is because they think that, they're going to sound like you said, a greasy car salesman. I mean, I like how, he says things like, he teaches the hand of the pen. How he says, hand them the pen and nod your head.
Yeah.
I mean, nod your head, right? I mean, that's bold without saying any word. And how he uses the word stop as a command, how he would say, and point to himself. He'd say things in the middle of a sentence, he'd say, stop. And then he'd get them to stop. And they said, imagine yourself with a professional agent like me, and touch himself or touch them, and how he would create an anchor on someone's wrist or someone's shoulder. And then say, success is good. Touch him. And I know you want to work with a successful touch him agent, and just basically going through in detail, how to get a buyer to fall in love with you and not know why.
I'm like, I was on his website and I'm like, holy crap, it worked. Because you're like, at the end, you said, hey, and there's a bunch of embedded commands on his site, if you noticed. And I'm like, son of a gun, he got me.
Oh, is that right? You're like, hey.
And, and even the subtle, like, hey, picking the right agent, and then you're pointing to yourself, those subtle nuances. And you know what? Maybe this is the other practical side of me. The great thing about his practice is I'm always like, prepare for the worst, hope for the best. So in the prepare for the worst, let's say you totally mess this up, right? Like, it's so subtle, they won't even know. So like, that's the safety net. If you wanted to apply this, it's so subtle that if you mess it up, it's like it is very subtle, because he even talks about, you don't want it so obvious that like the conscious mind is picking up on it. So you actually want to fly under the radar with these gestures and the tones and the pauses. And so, hey, for an agent who's like, hey, I really need to increase my conversion, let's just apply this, pop it in there. Don't worry about being perfect, because guess what? If you're not perfect at it, they won't know. It's totally safe.
I want you to think about the word toolbox. What is a toolbox? A toolbox is a box full of tools that you use to build something great. At Real Estate Rockstars, we've created our own free toolbox. So everybody that comes on the show as a guest brings a tool with them, and we plow them all into this toolbox, and we give it away for our viewing audience to basically use as they wish. Everything we put in there is an actionable item that can be downloaded, can be printed, can be used immediately. And we got things like scripts and dialogues, checklists for teams, checklists to keep agents accountable, referral forms that are filled out at settlement to get referrals by your buyers and sellers. Everything you could think of that you could use on a regular basis about real estate is included in this toolbox. And it's helping agents worldwide sell more houses and make their jobs a lot easier and processes much more efficient. And the thing is, it's absolutely free. All you got to do is go to hibandigital.com/toolbox or text the word toolbox to 444-999. That's toolbox 444-999. Do it now. Right. Yeah. And even if you're doing some of it, I mean, it only makes sense. It is a sales game, right? Mm-hmm. So why wouldn't you use sales techniques? And I mean, how do you feel about that? What was your initial thought when you thought, here's a guy who's going to essentially teach me to hypnotize people to get a listing?
I think the important point is, let's just call it a superpower for a second here, right? You can use it for good or for evil. And we obviously are a proponent of using it for good. And if you believe in your services and you believe that, hey, if they don't list and hire you, then they are now up to the randomness of the market out there, which is not good odds. Then you have to fight for the right of that seller to have the best agent. So be the best agent and convince them, at a high level, get the listing, get it sold, and they'll be happy. So that's part of the get them happy process, is not letting them end up with a horrible agent that's going to not negotiate, not take care of them, and make them wish that they never want to buy another house again.
Yeah. Yeah. And the whole neuro-linguistic programming, which is basically creating what they call neuro associations, which is, like, let's say, a good example is, if you have a dog, right, and you see that dog, or you think about that dog, you have this good feeling. That's a neuro association, a positive association with the thought of the dog. A negative one would be like, let's say you're in a bad relationship, and when you see them, you get a sickening feeling in your stomach, even though they haven't said anything or done anything, right? You just saw them. That's a neuro association. So his whole thing is creating these neuro associations that are positive. So a neuro association of success, a neuro association of sold, essentially, in the people's minds through embedded commands, right? And by pointing to himself and touching them, and it's really great to feel like a winner. You know what I mean? Like he sees the trophies of the kids in the house, and being like, it's really great to feel like a winner, and touching them or touching his chest or whatever. And I'm not even thinking about him touching his chest, but then I'm thinking, yeah, he is a winner,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's pretty high level, and you can tell he has so much knowledge in his brain, and it's just like this flood waiting to be unleashed. But he gave us some really great nuggets on that episode of what can be applied as you're going for the close in the listing appointment. And here's the thing, we're going for the close anyways, right? So you can go for the close really poorly in random pieces that, you're just kind of, patchworking yourself, or you can go for the close effectively. Which do you want? And this is a great opportunity to learn that and, make everybody a win-win.
Yeah, one of the agents from my certified listing agent course, Saul Z, out of Chicago, Illinois, actually hired a neurolinguistic programmer, a professional, to come in and create a neuro association to the cell phone and the telephones in his office, to money versus fear. Like his agents had this fear of picking up the phone and calling, right? So he actually had them come in and do a course where they touch the phones, they touch their cell phones. He linked, right? He anchored, as Ross talks about. He anchored a neuroassociation of positivity, of success, of money, not to himself, like Ross is recommending for the listing agent to do, but to the telephone. Right? So that they would pick up the phone and prospect every day. And Saul says it worked.
Really?
Yeah.
So like, what, did you get any info on how well it worked? I mean,
well, like, people would look at time that, who wants a cold call, right? Time the prospect. And they're like, and they haven't prospected. No one has told them to go screw themselves, right? No one has told them, and no one has hung up on them. So there's no reason for them to have a neuroassociation that's negative, to think, oh, I don't want to do that, I'm afraid. There's no reason for that other than in their mind. So he rechanneled it and re-anchored it so they saw the phone just like you would see the happy dog. I'm excited to get on the phone. I have fun on the phone. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that's fascinating. I've never heard of somebody bringing in an NLP expert to their team. That's pretty cool. Very, very creative of him.
Yeah, it worked, right? I love that. Okay. All right. So that was number 3. So we're getting in the top 3. We're going, as you can tell, we're going deep in these top 3. I re-listened to them. Christine re-listened to them. And so that's how we're going deep into these top 3. So, all right. So what was number 2, Christine?
Number 2, episode 467, and it's Flat Broke to Closing 188 Homes with Daniel Beer And he shares his hard lessons and smart strategies for real estate success. So that one busted through the 8,100 mark. So it's 8,131 downloads.
Wow.
Woo!
Again, a cool thing about this is now Ross Jeffries is kind of famous. He's got a little following. He's got a big following, whatever you want to call it. He's got a following, right? So some of that goes to promotion on his part. Now, Daniel Beers, on the other hand, he's an agent, right? He's busy listing and selling houses. So he was able to get into the top 3 organically, right? Pure organics. People sharing, right? That's how someone gets 3,000 downloads and someone gets 8,000 downloads, and they're both real estate agents without a following. It just gets passed around. Hey, check this out. Texted. Oh, you got to listen to this one. This is one of the best ones. That sort of thing. So, what did you learn from Daniel's episode?
It's interesting. I think a lot of agents don't realize that, hey, the concept of hiring somebody where the business can grow into them, right? Because usually we see a lot of agents where the business outgrew whoever they hired fairly quickly, and now it's painful again. And going through that and having the vision of what your business is going to look like to hire quality enough talent that wants to not only let the business grow into them, but, drive it forward even more. So that's, I think, one of my favorite concepts from that episode.
I liked how he was totally focused on training his listing agents to make them beasts, right? Like a lot of people, they're so caught up in training their buyer agents that the listing agents don't get much training after taking them on a couple of listing appointments with you when they first begin.
Yeah, he went for what would you say, 100-something days, like almost 3 months, it sounded like, riding around with him on a ton of listing appointments.
Yeah, right. I mean, he really put him to the test, and another wild thing, and again, this helps him because, he's in a high-end market, right? His average sale price is 800. Right? But that being said, he still only pays his listing agents 10%, and he keeps 90%. So I don't care what the commission is. If you're keeping 90%, your profit margin's massive.
And I think he made a really good point about, it's not about the splits. I mean, call it, it's like, hey, you can have 100% of zero, it's still zero. And, I think for most markets, if you can have a compensation structure that allows an agent to make 6 figures, in most market, that's going to be like a hoorah win-win. And maybe in some really smaller markets, you can go lower, but where that oh my gosh, I kind of hit a jackpot as a salesperson number is. It might be 75, 100, or 125. You work it backwards and say, hey, can I get them to that point? And if you focus on the end result, then the whole split stuff is just noise. It's very noisy, and it's very easy to just squelch that if you have the right mindset about it. And I'm sure you've experienced it too, Pat, where someone's like, hey, what's your split? What's your split? Because that's what agents are trained to ask about. That's all they know, so they can't help themselves. And so if you know how to handle it, then it's like, boop, literally a 1 or 2 sentence comment, and then you're off to what really matters, which is how much are they going to make and put in their pockets.
Exactly. It's like the old saying they say, would you rather have 10% of a watermelon or 50% of a grape?
Exactly. That's such a perfect analogy. So yeah, he did that masterfully. And when you're talking about training the listing agent, I mean, not only did that person go with him to a bajillion appointments, I forget the exact number, but I think he said over 100. And then he script and role played with them every single day. It's not like, hey, go run away, don't bother me, practice and then come back. He's like boot camp style every single day.
Yeah. Yeah. And they love it. And he loves it, right? It serves both of them. And they won't join his team unless they can put up with that, unless they can treat it like a profession, right? Unless they can make it a career, unless they can be treated like an employee.
Yeah. Yeah.
I like how he, started in 2007, broke as a $3 watch, no money, right? And I said, well, how did you go, to this massive pinnacle of where you are today? And he's like, slowly, 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 suddenly.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. He's and then that's really the reality of it, right? Some people have this notion that you got to like take off from the get-go, but if he's building the right foundations now, and I'm sure you've seen it too, some people do go at rapid speed, but underneath there's not actually a foundation. And so then they actually have to back up to put all that, the rest of the foundation in place that's kind of like wobbling there, and then they can go exponentially again. And with him, it sounded like he was building it correctly. So he feels more that slowly, slowly, than suddenly pattern, which is fantastic.
Yeah, I love it. And you know, another really cool thing, right, where he's really got it figured out, right, is not only is he cranking out massive amounts of commissions and sales, but here he just up and left and got a high-rise apartment with his family, with his wife and kids in New York City for a month, right, over the summer. Yeah. I mean, what a cool experience for him and his kids. When, you know, in the summer they're out of school, we're going to go live in New York for a month, see what it's like to live in a high rise, to take an elevator up and down, to have a doorman, to you know, go outside and have all these, you know, incredible items of culture, you know, happening and things to do, and you know, just be in a whole nother world for a month. And are you going to work? Well, if I have to, I'll just, you know, pop up my laptop on the Wi-Fi in the high rise, right? I mean, like they don't need me physically to run this massive real estate team.
Yeah, and he had an interesting word for it. He said, I'm going to put it to the stress test of doing that. And I like that. And so as agents who are looking to eventually not be in the day-to-day, right, I think a great litmus test is, okay, if I put the stress test on it and I up and like left for 30 days, what's going to break? And then let's make sure those are in place. So always do like a mental virtual stress test on your team or company, your business, and see what parts you need to really straighten up, because that's when it really starts showing up, when you're not there. Because it's like usually the producer, the rainmaker, is this silent statue, this atlas underneath that's holding up all the things that are weak. And lo and behold, if you're not there, like things start caving in, and that is not a real business.
Right. No, absolutely. And it passed the stress test, right? Mm-hmm. And you know, here's a guy that sends out 32,000. Guys, listen to this, 32,000 postcards a month. Mm-hmm. 2 entire zip codes. He blankets 2 entire zip codes. And he went on, he's so abundant thinking, not scarcity thinking. He went, and in his show notes, and it's still there if you go to his show notes of the episode, just pull up the episode and go to the show notes. But he basically put a copy of his postcard that he sends out, one of his most effective postcards, and the 6 areas for mastering a business through farming and through how he's done it, that he created. And a lot of people downloaded that.
Yeah, and yeah, you'll see the postcard right there, the PDF. I checked it out myself, which is great, because then you can give it to your designer or whoever and say, hey, I want it to look like that. It works. And I thought, okay, this is one thing that was always it was a big gotcha moment for me when I was farming and really started talking to some master farmers, right? And he went over this in the episode. And he said, now, I came in with the idea that, 12 direct once a month. Not at all, right? When you first start, you're hitting them up, especially in the seasons that are coming up, such as the January, February, and March, where that you have to build that impression of being the expert and being top of mind. The master farmers kind of double down on that and will send as high as 4 times a month, or anywhere from 2 to 4 times a month. And then the rest of the time, it's not uncommon to see that twice a month. And maybe during like the times that are dry spells, they might back off to 1. But that type of, it's way beyond 12 direct, you know? And I don't know if you've heard that too from other like master farmers.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, definitely. you definitely got to stay top of mind, because you don't know when they're going to throw it out, when they're going to pick it up. And, people make funny decisions at funny times. And so you just got to keep going, and it's consistency. I mean, I know that in my business, there were times where I really regretted stopping my farming. Like at one point we were going so much in radio and television that we decided, you know what, let's not send out these anymore. And we lost out on some decent neighborhoods that we had locked up for years, right? Mm-hmm. Just through monthly farming or bi-weekly farming. And so anyway, so yeah, you can never, it's a consistency game, just like farming is, right? I mean, you got to keep plowing the fields,
Yep. And it's interesting because some people are saying, oh, direct mail is dead and whatnot. But here's the thing. There's still a ratio that comes out of that. You can see people still spend tons of money on it. That doesn't mean, I'm not invalidating digital by any means, because that's huge too. But can you ignore your mailbox right now, as digital as we are?
You still get mail, and you still got to look at this stuff.
I still get mail. I don't want to. I wish I didn't have to, but we all do. So as outdated as we want to label it, we still have to check our stinking mailbox, and so does everybody else.
Yeah. No, absolutely. All right, cool. Well, what was the #1 downloaded episode for Real Estate Rockstars in 2017, Christine?
Okay, so #1 is episode 482 with David Osborne, and it goes from mom's real estate assistant to Keller Williams top broker with $9 billion in sales. Yes, that is a billion with a B.
Wow, that's so great. I haven't texted him yet, but I am going to text him and tell him, David's a buddy of mine, and I've known him for 20 years. And of course, he was coming out with his book, A Wealth Can't Wait, which I have right here. And I was going to use it as a guide for this conversation, but he's always got so much to say. We could have made that episode 3 hours, which actually there's something very interesting about these top 3 episodes that I need to pay attention to. All 3 of these episodes were almost an hour long, and a lot of these episodes we try to do in half an hour. And we've been getting a lot of comments on. They give us 5 stars on iTunes, but then they say, go longer than a half an hour. And so it's funny, right, that the top 3 are all about an hour long.
Fascinating. Yeah, you think in this age of, on the go and, keep it short and snappy and don't drag it on, that you would think people would like the shorter ones first. So, hey, goes to show you, hey, content is king, right? It doesn't matter short, long, whatever, as long as it's good stuff, it's good stuff. It speaks for itself.
So what were your favorite parts, Christine, about this episode?
Gosh, he had so many nuggets. At the end, he had things about the mentorship and how important that is. One thing actually that I liked towards the beginning was how he started talking about how a real estate agent, because you hear at some point a real estate agent wants to quote unquote get out. Or they don't want to be part of the daily grind. I mean, get out of the rat race.
I did it, and so did he. So yeah.
Yeah. And for a real estate agent to not look at this as a vehicle for funding their retirement in terms of buying assets is wasted knowledge and talent. Every agent should be, maybe I'm going a little far with this, brainwashed, right? To look at building their assets through real estate property, finding ways to purchase it, whether it's, there's so many different ways. If you know how to find good property, you can find the money. And if agents can really understand that, then every agent can start building for their retirement in a way that probably corporate could never provide for them, in a more stable and reliable and in their hands, in their control type of way. And I actually thought that was pretty good reminder on the knowledge that everybody has, but man, it just goes to waste. Like, agents don't think like that, and then they're in the daily grind all the time and wondering how they can get out. And there's a way out. It's right in front of them.
I want you to think about the word toolbox. What is a toolbox? A toolbox is a box full of tools that you use to build something great. At Real Estate Rockstars, we've created our own free toolbox. So everybody that comes on the show as a guest brings a tool with them, and we plow them all into this toolbox, and we give it away for our viewing audience to basically use as they wish. Everything we put in there is an actionable item that can be downloaded, can be printed, can be used immediately. And we got things like scripts and dialogues, checklists for teams, checklists to keep agents accountable, referral forms that are filled out at settlement to get referrals by your buyers and sellers. Everything you could think of that you could use on a regular basis about real estate is included in this toolbox. And it's helping agents worldwide sell more houses and make their jobs a lot easier and processes much more efficient. And the thing is, it's absolutely free. All you got to do is go to hibandigital.com/toolbox or text the word toolbox to 444-999. That's toolbox 444-999. Do it now. Yeah, and they just have to do it. I mean, I have that same regret. There was a period in the 90s where, the market was massive. It was just flat, right? It didn't have a go up. It didn't go down. It was just flat, right? And I bought a house, and I think I bought 2 houses, right? And I should have bought, a house a year, 2 houses a year, and just sat on them and just kept them, but it just, nobody was buying. So, nobody was buying a ton of rental property. So, of course, I didn't either, but I should have. And I think a lot of people have regrets that they don't just dollar cost average house buys like they do with a retirement plan or with the stock market.
I know I can think of some properties where I'm like, yeah, I wish I held on to that. And I know that feeling. And, it's whether the market is flat or not, it's like, dude, there's deals on the MLS, and I know off market is kind of where you can reliably get more stuff. But I mean, actually, so in this hot market right now, I was also kind of thinking, okay, the hot deals are already, people are all over it. Well, I have a couple of buddies here that are really started mining it. They've been kind of hibernating with their investment for a little bit, and they're like, okay, we need to get cranked back up. Dude, they just found a deal where it was just, I don't know. You know what? Agents underprice stuff. Okay. There was an example where an agent underpriced it where the agent thought it was a single lot on the waterfront, but it's a double lot. And once my buddy found out about it, put an offer in right away. Now it's sold, but its value, the margin there was like a couple $100,000 easy, like over 50% of the property value. Like it was a treasure chest gold mine. And
so you should always be looking. And it's like David said in this interview, always be looking at deals. Even if you don't plan on buying one, just, look at deals. And he and I did this together. We had a period of time where every day we would analyze 5 deals, right? And have to show each other the analysis of them. What's the cash on cash of this? What's the cash on cash of that? And he's like, always be looking at deals, always be finding new deals, and I think that's a brilliant part. And I like how he talked about this story. And of course, Gary Keller's his mentor, right? I mean, how lucky is that? You have a billionaire for a mentor. So Gary took him up at a young age and basically out of college, 23, 24 years old, and started mentoring him. And I like the story that he tells about when the market crashed and what Gary started to do or Gary along with him started to do while other big companies were doing the opposite. Do you remember that?
Yeah, they started grabbing market share. It was go time for them. And it's completely opposite of what everybody else wants to do, because they want to go in their corner and hide and just kind of like let the wave pass and try to just barely survive. And they just went out guns blazing and just took market share.
Yeah, and the same could be said for people in investing. I mean, everybody wishes they had invested more in, 2008, 2009, 2010,
Yeah. I mean, actually, so that was probably one of the most fun times for me in investing, because I, got an investment partner, and that was when everybody was just scared, like didn't want to put an offer, and these banks were just dying to get rid of property. Oh my gosh, it was like shooting fish in a barrel. It hasn't been the same since that year because the market has recovered. But when you have that mindset, you can have tons of fun. It is fun. Like, I want that moment to come back, just from the standpoint of you can grab so many opportunities. And it's a different mindset, running scared versus like charging towards it, but it's perspective, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And quite frankly, that's how he picked up some of the regions that Keller Williams has 30 regions, right? And that's it, right? 30 regions in the United States and Canada. And he has 5. He's involved in 5. And he was able to pick up some of these during that time because the owners of the regions were like, these things aren't profiting like they once were, and I'm going to get out. And I think people tend to think things are going to get worse when things are bad. And of course, they tend to think things are going to get better when things are good, right? It's just a natural thing. So what Gary told him to do was you go full force, you go full out when things are bad. And he started picking up, he picked up a couple more of these regions, picked up a couple more offices, and just started going high charging because he saw it as an opportunity to pick up agents that were disgruntled and blaming their broker because they couldn't sell anything.
Yep. And just imagine the feeling of going against the grain, against the natural reaction. Right? I mean, it takes some guts to do that because it's not a small commitment. And, I would be curious as to, hey, what is the line and what are some factors in there of when you're going against the grain and you're doing what's the opposite of intuitive, what makes it a good decision and a not so good one? And obviously he had fantastic advice and he had somebody who knew what they were doing that he can trust. I guess that's one of them. That's an important factor. What else, is there to consider?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I mean, he knows how to, going back to what you said earlier about the mentor thing, he knows how to surround himself. There's an old cliche, which is, you are the average of the 5 people you hang around the most. Right. And David's a master of that, right? Like he right now is opening a private equity firm. And so he found a guy in Austin, Texas, who has, one of the biggest private equity firms, and found several other people with private equity firms and started courting them, right? Talking to them, sending them thank you notes, donating money to the charities that they believe in, and getting thank you notes for the donation and things like that from the people. And then created his own mastermind of billionaires, essentially, right? And he's done that his whole life, whether it be real estate brokers that are achieving on a high level, real estate regional owners that are achieving on a high level, real estate investors that are achieving on a high level, apartment owners that are achieving on a high level, and finding several of them and then befriending them. And he talks about how do you befriend somebody, and it's as simple as treating them nice and treating them with respect, right? Treating them like family, essentially. And it just, it's becoming to them. Even if they know that you're below them, if you respect them and you do what they say, which is key, right? If somebody gives you advice and you don't take it as a mentee, they're not going to give you advice again. Right? But if you take it and you say, hey, I did what you said and I signed up for that and I did that and I did that, thank you so much, then they're much more apt to give you more. And he's a master at that, of the mentor-mentee relationship.
You make a really great point. The biggest reward you can give a mentor, because really they have no incentive to help you from all practical standpoint, right? It's a pure giving on their part, which a lot of people have. The biggest, fattest, juiciest thank you can give a mentor is to do what they say and let them know how much you appreciate them and let them know that you did it. Like that's the reward. That's why they're doing it. And, I've talked to a good number of people that you would think that, or people are typically afraid of going up to, and they even leave open doors of, hey, you can reach out, I'm here to give advice or whatever. Like they leave the door open. They're like, Christine, do you know how many times they actually reach out to me? They're like, 1 to 2% of the time. It's staggeringly low. And I've heard that enough where I realize that most of the people are afraid to reach out to their mentors. It's kind of like prospecting, right? What's the worst they can say? What are they going to say to you aside from no?
Yeah, and the thing, like, you didn't have them as a client when you made the call. So if you didn't have them as a client when you finished the call, you didn't lose anything. You're net even. You're still at zero, right? It's not like you're at -1. You're at zero because you had nothing when you made the call. And the same thing as a mentor. I have people all the time say, will you be my mentor? And my standard answer is just follow me on social media and keep in touch, right? None of them do. I mean, they follow me on social media and they'll stalk me. And I guess to them, that and I'm using that as a funny word, right? They follow me on social media, and which is a great way for them to follow me, to stay in touch. But rarely do they say, hey, Pat, give me 3 books that I should read today. Or, hey, Pat, tell me exactly what to do and I'll do it. Almost never does that happen.
Right. And so, following through with what a mentor says and actually going after some mentors, call it millionaire prospecting, right? I mean, you're literally prospecting millionaires or billionaires, however, high up you want to take that. And you might get 8 no's, but if you got 2 yeses out of 10, I'll consider that a jackpot.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's essentially what he did. He talks about being 23 years old, and his mom and his mom was number 6 agent in Keller Williams. Now it's 160,000. And his mom told him, hey, you should, if you're not going to sell, if you don't want to sell, you need to start buying some offices. And she's just like, go talk to all the successful people that you can in the Texas area and start opening offices and say this and say that and that sort of thing. And he just did it. And look at him now. Next thing you know, he's, Jed's a billionaire, or whatever, He's not a billionaire yet. I won't give him that, but he does have his own private plane, and he's doing quite well. So it was a joy to have him on, and it's a joy to watch his book, Wealth Can't Wait, soar to the top of all the New York Times bestseller and all the lists like that. When we did the episode, it was the first day that it came out, and it's still selling very well. As a matter of fact, my personal trainer, who I was with this morning, was telling me, hey, I'm just finishing up David's book, and it's really good. So it's still getting a lot of press.
Yeah, and and there's different networks out there too that are designed for mentorship that can allow you to plug into a network and fosters an environment of people who want to grow into that. And I do want to, kind of give kudos out to, M1. I know you're familiar with them with Rob Thomas.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, and that's a very millionaire mindset nurturing environment that I'm a part of, and I didn't know was out there, and you're able to connect with a lot of like-minded people who are crushing it and at different levels in their career. And, hey, being a millionaire mindset is almost like the minimum criteria. So imagine the conversation there versus maybe, some of the ones that you might have locally, which is more blasé. So there's resources and networks out there that I think you can plug yourself into to raise your, mindset.
No, absolutely. And what Christine is talking about is M1. It's InsideTheM1.com. And David and I actually started GoBundance. And shortly thereafter, we hooked up with Rock Thomas, who basically created the under level of GoBundance. GoBundance is a mastermind, say for businessmen. It's kind of a businessman mastermind for millionaires plus. And if you want to be a millionaire, and M1 means first million, you join M1 to build yourself into a GoBundance level status. And Christine joined, and she's getting a lot out of that. As a matter of fact, I'm going to put a link to M1, and you can ask Christine as an outsider, someone who doesn't get paid for it, by it, what she thinks of it and that sort of thing. I'm going to put all of Christine's contact information if you guys want to reach out. I'm going to put the link to Seize the Market, her company, in there as well. And Christine, listen, thanks so much for coming on. It's so much easier to do this with a partner, and you did a great job. And I really appreciate you coming on and helping me out with this.
Yeah, no, it's been fun. And, you did 400, you're what, 600 episodes now. Wow. A lot of blood, sweat, and commitment, tears of joy, tears of celebration. But you got some amazing stories and nuggets. And I mean, if you stopped today, which that's not what I'm advocating, but you can go back to your 600 plus episodes, and there's so much value and wealth just sitting there to be learned. It's absolutely amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks for that. Yeah, I mean, and it's great to go back like this, right? Because there's, and people want to go back. They don't know how. I have had people go back and listen to all 600, believe it or not. They put it on 2X and they listen to all of them. But this is a great way to go back if you're a new listener and this is your first episode, or you've only heard 3 or 4. Go back to the top 10 that we just listed out here. As a matter of fact, what I'll do in the show notes of this episode, we're going to put all of these on there, right? How about that? We'll put all of them in the show notes so you guys can download the top 10 episodes of 2017, and you can just start listening to those one by one. Put them on 2X. You can knock them out in a week, and man, you'll get so much free value out of just that.
Yep, and get your note and pad ready, because you're going to definitely want to write some stuff down, because I was like, oh, what's that nugget? Let's rewind 30 seconds there. So it's really, really good stuff.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Christine. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks. Talk to you later. Bye.
Wow. And guys, listen, I didn't get a chance to talk to Christine about her free gift that she's giving to the Toolbox. And as you know, everyone must bring a free gift. So Christine's free gift is a really cool template. It is a success scorecard that you can use for goal setting activities and to figure out where your strengths and weaknesses are. Figure out where you're losing commissions and where you're gaining commissions. It's kind of like, I want more of this and less of that. And you want less of something if it's costing you money. So anyways, it's a 10-page document. It's great. I did it myself. The Success Scorecard Master Sheet is included at hybendigital.com/top1018. hybendigital.com/top1018. And also on the Agent Success Toolbox by texting the word toolbox to 444-999, or simply going to hybendigital.com/toolbox. Thank you, Christine. Thank you for watching Real Estate Rockstars. Please give us a review wherever you're watching or wherever you're listening. We eat feedback for breakfast, and I don't care whether you give me a 1-star review or a 5-star review. I just want the review. I want to know what we're doing right and what we're doing wrong. Would love to improve things. Hey, and listen, please subscribe. The more subscribers we get and the more reviews we get, the better guests we'll get for you in the future. Feel free to reach out to me anywhere on social media. Just type in my name. I'm everywhere, and I look forward to meeting you in the digital world. Have a great day, and thanks again for listening to Real Estate Rockstars.